The following are the list of components required to complete the installation of the RTB APS system, starting with the BLX acoustic unit, the BLX wiring and mounting harness, the BLX drill template, the relay panel, the push button, the stainless steel safety bar, the push button mounting gaskets, whether round or flat depending on the surface you're mounting to, the push button drill template, and the installation manual. The required height for the installation of the acoustic unit is between 3 meters and 2.1 meters, or 10 feet and 7 feet respectively. Once you've measured the correct height, take the BLX drill template and stick the sticker onto the pole in order for the center line of the drill template to align with the center of the crossing. Once the drill template is correctly applied to the pole, you can begin the drill process. Follow the instructions indicated on the drill template to determine which size bit you need to drill. Now that your wiring is done, you can insert the cables from the wiring harness into the holes. The bottom hole takes the 6-conductor cable, and the top hole takes the 10-conductor cable. Once the cables are completely inserted into the pole, it's now time to fasten the harness to the pole. For this step, it is not recommended to use power tools, as they could potentially crack the mounting harness. Now that the harness is secured to the pole, before mounting the BLX on the harness, first we're going to begin the installation of the push button. Just as with the BLX, the first step for mounting the push button is to apply the drill template to the pole at the desired location and begin drilling in the indicated locations. Once the holes are drilled, you can then fish the 10-conductor cable through the bottom left hole. Then we'll slip on the rubber gasket. It's important that the rubber gasket is the first element to go up against the pole. Once the gasket has been fitted on, then we'll move on to the push button. First, you'll need to unscrew the 2 screws on the bottom of the push button housing. Once that's open, we'll remove the connector connecting the sensor cover to the inside of the push button PCB. Next up, we'll remove the plastic harness holding the solenoid in place. Unscrew the 2 screws with a flathead screwdriver. Once these 2 screws have been unscrewed, remove the harness and place it to the side for now. Now, to disconnect the solenoid from the push button, we'll first need to remove the connector connected to the PCB. Once that's disconnected, place the solenoid aside, and we can move on to passing the 10-conductor cable into the push button housing. It is important to make sure that the grommet is perfectly sealed onto the push button housing. Next, we'll move to the steel safety bar, which goes behind the button, between the button and the gasket. This will protect the button housing from vandalism. Once that's done, we can secure the button to the pole by screwing in the 2 screws inside the push button housing. Just as with the BLX harness, it is not recommended to use power tools, as you risk cracking the housing. Now that that's done, we can finally move on to wiring. First, we'll begin with the bottom 4 terminals on the right hand side. In order, from top to bottom, these wires will be black, gray, green, and white. Or, if you're using an older version of our wiring harnesses, which are all black wires, the numbered wires would be in order 6, 5, 3, and 4. It is also important to follow the correct placement of the wires in order to ensure that there is enough space to reinsert the solenoid once our wiring is complete. Next, we'll move on to wires 7 and 8, which are inserted into the horizontal terminal block in the rightmost connections. Wires 7 and 8 are orange and yellow respectively. Once those 2 wires are secured, we can move on to the last connections, which are brown, purple, red, and blue, or 10, 9, 1, and 2. These last 4 terminations are actually push pins, and therefore no screwdriver is required to secure them in place. Now that all our wiring is completed, we can reinsert the solenoid into the housing. First, ensure that the direction of the arrow is pointing in the correct direction to align with crossing. This provides guidance for a blind user. Then, pass the solenoid up through the wires and reconnect it to the PCB. Now, we'll take the small yellow harness and reinsert it to secure the solenoid to the push button housing. Once the 2 screws are secured, we can take the sensor cover and reconnect the cover back to its connector on the PCB. Then, the very final step, close up the sensor cover onto the push button housing and screw in the screws at the bottom. If you're in a jurisdiction that requires instructional pedestrian signs, you will also need our steel backing panel to mount to the pole. This steel panel has a small tab at the bottom that slots into the steel safety bar of the push button. There are 2 tabs in the center of the panel, which is where we will drill to secure the panel to the pole. Now, before mounting your BLX unit onto the harness, we recommend watching the RTB relay panel video, which will be linked in the video description. Once that's done, we also recommend using the BLX test unit, which will verify if all your wiring is done correctly. There is a red LED light which will indicate if any wiring has been done incorrectly. This will help prevent blowing any units due to miswiring. If your wiring is done correctly, once the unit is mounted, the green LEDs will light up to indicate the top one, constant power, the middle one, the don't walk signal, and the bottom one, the walk signal, once the phase is on. This concludes the installation tutorial for the RTB APS system. If you're looking for instructions on how to configure the units, please follow the link in the description for the configuration app RTB BLX.